Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of the Vintage Anime Club podcast, your podcast for old school anime, drinking lots of wine, and a little late recording this time as we all gather around ye old interwebs rather than in person. I'm one of the hosts, Dennis. Joining me today is Ed.
Hello.
We got Garrett.
Hey.
And Han.
Hello there.
Welcome back, fellas. Thanks for joining me online. I know schedule has been rough with couple of birthday things, in general, lots of other life events happening, so I'm glad you are all able to join up online this way. Technology.
Happy to be here. Through the interwebs.
Yup.
21st century.
This is like only our third or fourth episode that we've recorded where everyone had to be on Skype, so I will count that as a win. Yeah, we don't do too many Skype ones.
I feel like I was on the previous one.
Yeah, you were on one. You were on one of those for like Voltron, and we did another one for that was like an AX recap as well. So that's why I'm thinking this might be like 3, maybe 4. I think we've had Eve on a couple of other Skype ones too. But yeah,
well, it's just too tempting to get together to drink wine. You know?
I know it's harder where like you have to provide your own drinks now, and you have to figure out how to drink your, by yourself like an alcoholic. What?
It's only alcoholic if you have a problem with it.
I can stop anytime I want.
Glug.
You're not the boss of me. Well, we are going to be talking about a series that's a Toonami classic, but first, what has everyone else been watching? How about Han? Let's start with you.
The only new thing that I took a look at, I don't know if I'll keep it, is Uma Musume, Pretty Derby, which is a anime about horse racing. Well, girls that are racing horses.
Oh, that one. Yeah.
So I watched it because it's rated high. It's in the little higher, like it's on the top. But like watching it, I feel like somebody got told by their wife, like, your horse racing gambling has never made us any money. And he was just like, oh, I'll make money. And so he decided to make an anime, and now it's making money.
Wow.
So,
I'll show you.
I'll
the
show
best
you.
horse racing anime ever.
No, it's just like all his horse racing he's lost, so he decided to make an anime. Well, it'll be a net gain, so he'll have made money.
Jeez.
And then, so all the horse racing can actually be profitable. So that's what it seems like.
And we're gonna say he had a dream and he made it work.
I've heard of the show. I didn't know anyone who was watching it.
So I think Michelle watched a little bit of it. It's an odd concept, so I'm not sure if it's for me in particular, but it's a show about racing girls that are horses, but not like centaurs. So they look human. The only thing that makes them horses is they don't have human ears. They have horse ears coming out the top, and then they have a horse tail. So they still have 2 legs.
Yeah, and they run, upright with a 2 legs,
like,
right? Yeah,
like people. So yeah, it's kind of an unusual show.
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
What was that other thing that got translated to like anthropomorphic girls? Ed, was it like
there's just so many things though.
Well, there was a new one that was like blood or something.
That one's not out yet. Yeah, it's the human body cells, but I think it's starting in summer season maybe.
We have to talk about that one. Yeah, it's like red blood cell, white blood cell, platelet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty weird.
God.
I guess the main thing is that this is for a show that has not actually the anime is for a game that hasn't been released yet. So that's kind of an odd thing.
It's basically like the toys of old for 80s and 90s cartoons where it's like, we have toys. Crap, we need a show to sell the toys with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, keep us posted if it still remains entertaining. If not,
yeah, let's see.
Okay, Garrett, how about you? What have you been up to?
Same old. Enjoying the new season of Food Wars and My Hero Academia. I'm loving the new season of My Hero Academia.
It's been super good.
Oh yeah, I mean it's funny watching it because like I'm just sitting there and I'm watching like, man, this is like this might be like my second favorite out right now, like in terms of just what's out. Because I'm still, I'm a huge One Piece fan. My Hero Academia does a lot right, and I'm really glad that it's taking off as well as it is. And I think My Hero Academia actually helped me kind of get used to the whole seasons with anime, because I'm still, I'm from the time of Dragon Ball and One Piece, and when everything just went, and living through Bleach and Naruto, it's really nice to get someone's like, you know what, we're gonna take breaks, we're not gonna be here all the time, but the animation is gonna be so good, you're not even gonna worry about it.
Yeah,
for real.
But the new thing I am watching is Watakoi, Love is Hard for Otaku.
The one on Amazon. Right?
Yes, it's on Amazon Prime. I'm really enjoying it. It's a romantic comedy. It's about a girl who she had to quit her old job because her old job found out that she was an otaku, and she was like ostracized for it. So she goes to a new job. She's like, no one's gonna find out. I'm gonna be a respectable part of society. And literally the minute she gets there, she runs into the trope of the childhood friend who knows she's an otaku. And she's like, okay, just play cool. Hey, haven't seen you in a while, hope you're doing good. Starts to walk away, and he's like, oh yeah, are you going to that convention thing later, like in front of everybody? She's just like, shit. But it's nice because there's kind of like they show different facets of fandom. So like she's really into yaoi and manga, and the childhood friend is into video games, and he outright says, it's like, yeah, I'm a video game otaku, I don't care. In fact, most of the time he's playing Monster Hunter on the Switch, which is hilarious. But what I really like about it is that there's only like 5 episodes out so far, but they jump into it right away. They're not like, okay, maybe in 10 episodes they'll finally realize they like each other or something. No, he's like literally at the end of the first episode, it's like, hey, like I'm here, like you keep complaining about not having a boyfriend, why don't you choose me? And he makes the cutest speech where he's like, yeah, like I'll stay up all night with you and grind for the levels that you're trying to get to. I'll go with you to the conventions and whatnot. Like, I'll never let you be alone and that stuff. It's like, oh, it's so cute. And then he just says like one thing, like, oh, and I'll let you come with me like on a job retreat or something. And she's like, all right, deal. We're boyfriend and girlfriend now. It's like, okay.
Nice.
But it's nice. It's really good. I do recommend it if you need to scratch that comedy, that romance itch, that comedy romance. It's good.
Cool. Ed, what have you been watching?
Well, the same anime shows that we've been talking about with like Mahou Shoujo Ore and Shokugeki. What else? I'm not really watching that much this season, I feel like, comparatively.
Just catching up on anything?
Well, this is only peripherally related, but I've watched several live action shows recently.
Oh yes, yeah, that's related enough.
Yeah, well, I mean, so one is the Kakegurui live action version. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I can't remember if I mentioned this last time, but Netflix actually picked that up too, which I was kind of surprised about. So they have it now, so you can watch Kakegurui both the anime as well as the live action version now at the same time, if you want. That was the gambling show that I talked about it for many times before.
Yeah.
And then the other show that I started watching is something that HBO Asia made called Miss Sherlock. So it's kind of like the BBC version of Sherlock, where they take the Sherlock Holmes story and set it in modern day, but of course this one's in Tokyo, and kind of like the title implies, Sherlock is a woman and so is Watson. So it's been pretty good so far.
What is it? It's like not technically Watson, it's like Wato-san or something like that.
Yeah, right. So her name is Tachibana Wato. So at the end of the first episode, another character's like, okay, so Wato-san, good to meet you, so of course they had to play the pun that way.
I'll take it. That's totally fine.
What about you, Dennis? What have you been up to or watching?
I finally caught up with everyone's favorite Red Panda now with Agretzko.
Yeah.
Oh man, it was so good. I ended up watching Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I forgot to mention that you introduced me to that, and I haven't gotten too far ahead of what you showed me, but I'm very interested to see where that goes.
It's so good. It has brought about a lot of friends have been clamoring now for doing karaoke, and I'm like, yes, I support this. I also want to do karaoke, so that's good.
Oh, me and you have been trying to get that done for a good while, so I'm very happy that now everyone's like, hey, yeah, let's do it.
Hopefully next month we can get some fun thing out of it, and I don't know, maybe we'll post a dumb picture, not video, because no one needs to hear that dumb picture on like our Instagram account.
Patreon.
Well, we're gonna practice our death metal screams.
That was an idea. Like, what if we did anime karaoke Patreon?
Oh boy,
I am so down.
I don't know who would want to hear that.
Yeah,
but,
audience listening, just make sure you turn down your headphones.
Mm-hmm. And
we'll definitely make your ears bleed, but if you can handle that, definitely Patreon.
I'm gonna be like the main character in Maho Shoujo Ore of just everything being off key. and out of time. Yeah.
This week's episode, they go karaokeing, so
oh man, can't wait.
You should watch it.
And then the other thing, like I always watch when it's every odd numbered month, sumo is back.
No,
so they have started live action sumo. We get to see the highlights on NHK, sometimes on YouTube. The sad part for me is the half Filipino sumo Ozaki that I always root for has withdrawn from this tournament. I'm like, no, but he's my favorite. So I don't
Did
have.
Did they say why he withdrew?
He's injured, so it's one of those things where, like, would rather recover for the next tournament rather than sustain injury. Yeah, especially because he is one of the favorites to become a next Yokozuna, and he's been doing super good for the past couple of tournaments. So, yeah, unfortunately, by withdrawing, it's a step back, and he might have to start from not from the rank and file tiers, but I think he has to start his climb from bottom rank Ozeki to become Yokozuna again. So it's unfortunate, but still root for him. Hopefully, if I do get to go to Japan later this year, hopefully he's not withdrawn from that tournament. That's all I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
All right. Any news before we head on to the main topic? I know that there was one thing that we noticed. Ed, do you remember the voice actor who unfortunately had some issue?
Oh shoot, I can't remember his name.
Let's see if I can try to bring it up real quick. And get to hear my loud mechanical keyboard. Oh yeah.
Young guy.
Yeah, he's in oh crap. Just gonna try keep looking for this.
Here we go. Umehara Yuichiro, who is he's in Darling in the Franxx.
That's what it is.
This season, he was in Juni Tyson, Idolmaster Side M. He's in the new Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Yeah,
he's
super
in
young.
Caligula. Yeah, so he unfortunately ran into some health issues recently. His agency announced that he has been hospitalized with a condition called acute disseminated encephalomyelitis, which is something that I run across in my other work. But it can be pretty severe. It's basically an autoimmune disease that attacks your brain. So people usually recover, but the recovery is often very prolonged. We're talking weeks to months. So it seems pretty likely that he's going to miss the rest of the season for all of the shows that he's currently in. Although, well, I don't know how long in advance they record some of the shows, but he may very well need to get replaced for many of his roles. Yeah. And who knows when he's going to be back.
Especially for something like Darling in the Franxx, because they're still in the middle of the second course, so they might need to replace him by the last maybe 3 or 4 episodes. Who knows?
Yeah. So anyway, best wishes to him, and good luck for his recovery.
Yeah. Another piece of news, I just got an email from Netflix that they are about to release their live-action adaptation for Mob Psycho 100, which I didn't even realize was getting a live-action adaptation. I
Me
probably
neither.
I probably heard about it in passing, but it never really registered like it was coming out this soon.
That caught me off guard for sure.
Yeah. It's like, wait, what? What? Okay. Wow. Anyone else enjoy watching the anime beforehand?
I couldn't really get into it, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know. Like, maybe I'll give it another chance. Just like, I watched the first few episodes. I'm just like, I don't get it.
It's a little different. It's not quite the One Punch Man appeal.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's from the same author, and like I thought it was okay as well, but yeah, it is definitely it's definitely not like One Punch Man. But that's also a good thing because you don't want to be riding that same like coattail,
Yeah.
So yeah, it is quirky. There are some good moments that are in there. I think overall it's okay, but I haven't wanted to go out and like pre-order the box set like I did with One Punch Man.
I just wonder how they're going to do the ghosts and the live action, if it's going to be like shitty looking CGI or what.
That's what I'm most interested in. So I think I'll wait till it's out and then like, all right, maybe like episode 4 or 5 to see how it looks like. Because he shows up, like he's not like there from the start. It's like 2 or 3 episodes in the anime, something like that, before he shows up. So yeah, I'll probably check it out eventually. But backlog is already kind of heavy, so we'll see how long it takes me to get there. But now I guess we can go ahead and get into our actual podcast topic for the day. And like I said, it's an old Toonami favorite. We are going to talk about The Big O. Which
Showtime!
Showtime!
Big O.
Big O. Big O. Big O. Big O.
You can tell Garrett's a fan.
And we could talk about the exclusion of that a little bit later. Or like, man, wait, what? Right now, this is actually, it was licensed by Bandai way back in the day. It came out in 1999 in October and went all the way until January of 2000 for its initial 13-episode run, though it was planned for 26, and apparently they were just going to end it at 13. But if you check on like Wikipedia and ANN and places like that, it turns out that due to the international fan response, Cartoon Network and Sunrise helped bring about the second half. So we did end up getting a full, I guess, double core 26 episode season. So that's kind of neat.
Very unusual. I mean, it's because the whole reason they were going to stop it at 13 is it was not doing that well in Japan.
Yeah.
And so it was mostly the U.S., of course, that brought about the demand for the second season. Wasn't it separated by a couple years because of that whole thing?
It was.
Yeah, it was a few years.
I want to say like 2002 or 2003. I forget.
That sounds about right.
I closed all my info because I was just focused on the first 13.
Yeah,
so that's all that we're covering for these next trio of episodes. But that is that might be the first case. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be the last case because like lots of anime is now getting catered to a much broader audience. Like even we talked about it earlier. Like Netflix is getting in the game and Amazon is getting in the game too because they want global market no matter how niche something is, as long as they can get other subscribers in a market that would see growth in that. That's all that they want to do. I don't think Hulu has delved into exclusive anime. Hulu kind of just does what's
Viz, on like networks and stuff.
Like what
they do work a lot with Viz.
Yeah, Viz and Funimation, I feel.
Yeah, Funimation might not be as prevalent just because Funimation has its own streaming service and they work very closely with Crunchyroll now. So
yeah.
But I'll be honest, like I haven't really looked at Hulu for anime in a long time, so I have no idea what's really playing there.
Yeah, honestly,
it was 2003 is when the second season came.
Yeah, I was using Hulu for a bit for like a lot of the Viz shows before, like Tiger and Bunny, and then that got put on Netflix. And then some of the Funimation shows, like I was watching Arslan and My Hero Academia, and then that got put on Crunchyroll. So I'm like, oh, okay, guess guess I don't need this Hulu usage all that much now. So, yeah. And let's see, a couple other things. So, this was directed by Kazuyoshi Katayama, who also directed the 1988 Appleseed OVA, which we reviewed earlier for the show, along with King of Thorn, Those Who Hunt Elves. Those Who Hunt... I can't speak. Those Who Hunt Elves. Along with Maris the Chojo, which is one of Diana's favorites. Screenplay was done in partnership with Kazuyoshi Katayama and Chiaki Konaka, who also did like a majority of the storyboards and is also credited as the head writer. Apparently, there's also a manga about this. I don't know if it was created as a manga first. I think the manga like adapted. I know the manga came out before the actual anime, but I think it was like an alternate adaptation of some of the anime storylines. And it
looks like, yeah, because I'm seeing that the manga began in July of 1999 and the anime began in October of 1999.
Yeah. And the manga is based on an original creation by Hajime Yatata, which is just a pseudonym for all of like Sunrise's head staff. So they all like collectively work together under that name, because if you look at those credits on Anime News Network, it's like everything Sunrise has put out. Creation by Hajime Yatata and written by Hitoshi Ariga. So I never fully watched Big O when it was on Cartoon Network.
Blasphemy.
Same with me. I did not. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Am I the only one who did?
Maybe.
Han?
I've watched a good portion. I didn't watch it all because it was watching it as it aired.
Yeah.
On TV. So I might skip a episode here or there. So because of that, like I don't think I've watched everything. So probably like 2/3 I've watched.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I tried giving it a shot. I think I missed the first 1 or 2 episodes, so I tried jumping in, by episode like 3 or 4, somewhere in the middle. And I just never could consistently stick with it. Like, I guess it didn't... I don't know why, as someone who's a big Batman the Animated Series fan, it didn't really stick with me, back then. So I'm looking forward to the actual revisiting of this to actually give it a real legitimate shot.
Right. I mean, I could totally see that, especially you being older than me. I could see how, like, if you're kind of catching it, it could be a little bit boring if you're not catching like the right parts.
Mm-hmm.
Like especially if like say you're catching more of the the mundane quote unquote negotiating rather than the robot fights. Because like if you watch the first half, it's kind of just like, okay, this is Bruce Wayne, the animated series. And that could get a little boring if you're not really catching the right moments. And then if you just see the robot fighting, then you're like, oh, it's another Gundam rip off or whatever. So I mean, I could totally see that. I think for me, just being at the right age where it's like, okay, this is Toonami, this is the block. I just watch from beginning to end. It doesn't matter what they're playing. I'm just gonna watch it. So for me, it was super easy to watch and stick through it. And I don't even remember if I completely liked the series. I don't think I disliked it. And I'm sure like I liked it to a certain extent because I remember where it ended and I remember being disappointed. So I'm sure I liked it at some point.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, yeah. Mm-hmm. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, technically this was chosen by Karen, who unfortunately couldn't be on at this time. So hopefully we can get her on next time.
Come on.
Speaking to your watch and summon Karen through the ground.
We'll talk about that later in a bit.
But yeah, so why don't we go ahead and head into our discussion for the first 4 episodes for the Big O. You guys ready?
Showtime.
Paradigm City is a place without a past. 40 years ago, something happened that wiped the memories of everyone in it. Unfortunately, the people of Paradigm City were very busy before then, making megaduces, aka giant robots, and monsters. People who were born after the memory wipe are gaining or recovering memories of the past and using them to build newer threats. Roger Smith keeps Paradigm City safe with the help of the Big O, his butler Norman, and the android Dorothy. Roger keeps Paradigm City safe. As problems mount and more memories surface, Roger's past and Paradigm's future begin to become suspect. And that was from Anime News Network for their plot summary. So, yeah. We get introduced right away to our first episode, Roger the Negotiator, which is the title for the first episode of the series. And he says he's the best negotiator in Paradigm City, yet all I see him do is fail at negotiating.
Is that because he's the only negotiator? Because he's pretty bad at it.
I mean, he has all these arbitrary rules about like fairness and balance, almost like equivalent exchange in Full Metal Alchemist. But no one but him seems to accept those terms. They're like, nah, I'd rather tip it in my favor. Well, that's not real negotiation. Just, yeah, like what's the first thing?
And then he just shrugs it off too. It's like, oh well,
I'm the best. You're terrible at this. Still the best.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he's the only one.
I know, right?
He has like a code of chivalry that nobody else is adhering to.
That so too.
Is it chivalry or is it misogyny? Because
mix of little column A, a little bit column B.
There's little bits like I only allow beautiful women into my place before 10 o'clock. It's like what?
Yeah, Roger is definitely trying to be a ladies' man. Like I don't know if he is actually a ladies' man because I'm only 4 episodes in and I haven't seen him score all that much. Besides one girl who's interested.
I do like. I don't know if you went back and watched any of the episodes in English. Dennis,
I did,
but I do like. Okay, did you get to the? It might not be in the first 4 episodes, but Dorothy tends to call Roger a louse like all the time.
He did it. She did it one time.
Okay, good
so far. But yeah, like
I was hoping she would at least do it like once within the first 4 episodes.
Yeah, honestly, that would have been like this show exudes like old timey noir. I mean, it has designs based on like the 1992 Batman the Animated Series and whatnot. So it has this old timey feel with a giant mecha capabilities and future tech and whatnot. But yeah, everyone kind of speaks a certain way, dresses in an old fashioned way. So yeah, louse was definitely something I would have attributed Roger to having being called a bunch of by not just all women.
Right. And I feel like his character is one of those where it's like, yeah, he tends to exude a lot of this like misogynistic things, but it's not what he really feels. Mm-hmm. It's just more like, that's the times and that's how it should sound. But really, I'm just a nice guy. It's like, okay, well, stop being a dick and just be how you're supposed to be.
Speaking of the Batman thing, I mean, he calls himself a negotiator, but what his power really is that he's rich and has a lot of toys, apparently.
And I'm like, so
he has his special watch and his car that has weapons in it, and of course we'll get to the Big O later. But he lives in a tower, some skyscraper with a butler, so he is he's rich.
His butler seems super badass too. I mean, like like in Batman, I never really thought of Alfred as being badass until they gave him his like little background episode. I'm like, holy shit, Alfred is a badass. I didn't realize he was
I do believe, I don't know if it's this season or the second season, but I do believe his butler does get an episode like that.
Nice. Well, looking forward to whenever that happens. So we start off with him giving like this, noir style monologue, which there are definitely a lot of noir themes, lots of shadows, and everyone's pretty much wearing black.
Yeah,
and giving a brief, I guess, overview of his job and his role in this city, along with parts of the city themselves. And he has to go into this negotiation about recovering some eccentric scientist's daughter.
Right.
Turns out to be our main heroine, I guess, of the show, an android named Dorothy, who we later... What was the creator's name for the episode 1, who turned out to not really be the creator? Some sort of like an S.
Miguel Soldano.
Soldano, thank you. I wanted to say Salvador. I'm like, it's not Salvador. Soldano. And so, they were like, oh, it's Dorothy Soldano. No, it's not, actually. So, turns out she's an android, not a real daughter. Soldano comes breaking up comes scaring away the negotiation process because, before anyone can confirm anything, the kidnappers, I guess, take the money and run, and Roger is like, something's off about this chick and doesn't know what until Soldano comes by.
Yeah, the Soldano acts like it should be very obvious that she's an android, but, she looks like a human and talks like a human.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if she doesn't look like it, because with the art style being kind of stylized and simplified as it is, she doesn't really look any different. She's maybe a little paler.
I believe that the androids, the good androids anyway, are supposed to be able to pass as human. Because I do think later on, I think it's in this season, that we'll get another android who is, he does look like a human and he's able to pass as a human. Just with his mannerisms and how he talks, you're like, oh, no, wait, that's an android.
So even though Soldano's like, you're a fool for making this mistake, I mean, I'm not sure that it really was a stupid mistake or not.
Right? Because everyone is technically being fooled by Dorothy in the first couple of episodes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
After that failed negotiation, Roger goes back home, and his butler Norman's...
Oh, we forgot to mention, though, he was prepared for the negotiation to fail. So when the bad guys drove off with the money, he's like, oh, well, I guess this failed. Hits a little button on his magical watch that does everything, and the suitcase just...
Wait, no, not this time. This time he had a little remote control. He didn't actually use his watch.
Oh, it was a remote control.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was, he does have that watch that magically does anything.
Sonic screwdriver watch or whatever.
Yes, but it was a remote control, and then he hits the button, and it just flies out the car in jetpacks. And I love how their reaction was to shoot it down, and the main, I guess, the leader, I forget his name, but he's the one who's like, hey, dumbasses, don't shoot at the suitcase full of money. Oh, it opened, and the money just flew everywhere. Who would have thought?
Smart.
Roger doesn't seem that upset about losing the money either. It probably wasn't his money.
I was gonna say, it's probably not even his money. That, or with the lifestyle that he has, he'd probably like, yeah, it's no sweat off my back. I'll reimburse that. Though he was complaining about not getting paid fully yet.
True. So he was kind of half-heartedly trying to get the money back, but didn't really get it. Didn't really happen.
Yeah. So back in the mansion, Roger's visited by mysterious woman who he can't help but try to turn on the charms until he sees that it's Dorothy. Oh, it's just you android. My butler, I can't believe my butler let an android in here. And she's like, well, you didn't think I was an android at first either. So, how the tables have turned.
So another thing about the art style is that Dorothy has these shadows drawn under her eyes.
Yeah.
And it always looks like she's glaring at Roger, which she probably is anyway.
Her facial expression doesn't change at all.
Yeah.
So it is in a constant glare.
I'm okay with, to be frank.
No, I think it works for her, and it works for her character, especially when Roger will say something, and then in the same straight face, she'll be like, "You're such a louse."
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. No, it works very well for her.
Very much. So, what happens next? We get introduced to one new character, Major Daston, though he just goes by Major, I think, at this time. I don't know if we got a name. I had to look up the name credits and stuff on ANN and My Anime List.
I don't know if we did in the first. No, wait. Doesn't the butler actually announce him?
Yeah,
he does.
Okay. I'm pretty sure the butler says his name. Yeah.
Let's get a little brief history of the two. Like, Roger apparently was in the military, served under him before. He gets taunted by the Major as he calls Roger Lieutenant Smith, and Roger gets pissed.
I think they were in the military police. There's no military. The police is kind of the military.
Yeah, they're always saying
yeah.
they're always saying military police is one phrase. So
Right.
Okay.
And we do see a picture of him and with him and like I guess an old squad or whatever.
Yeah. So I wonder if we'll ever get any backstory behind that later on. You don't have to tell me yes or no. Like, I'll find out eventually. I'm just trying to play audience devil's advocate because I haven't seen this. Maybe they haven't either. But so he comes in, reprimands Roger about like messing up the negotiation, tells him to stick his nose out of the rest of their business. And this is that point where I'm thinking, wait, so he doesn't know that this rich guy drives a giant mech around town and punches things? Because this scene definitely makes it seem like he knows that this rich guy drives around in a giant mech punches things.
yeah, when you guys told me that they don't know that he's a big O pilot, I was like, what? It just seems so obvious.
Yeah.
He's like the only guy with a special car that shows up at every time the Big O comes out. But I don't know. Maybe it's like
I wouldn't mind talking about this car for a bit. Like, this car definitely exudes Batman Returns Batmobile, because as soon as Roger parks it outside this like sketchy diner or like the sketchy part of town to meet with some guy for information, like presses a button on, I don't know if I'm assuming it's his watch, I don't remember. But all of a sudden everything just like armors up.
yeah, it's built like an old muscle car or something. I guess it's very
And can we
bulky
talk about
looking.
how that happens in like the worst part of town?
Yeah.
So like he goes to the worst part of town, goes into a bar, and without missing a beat, just like hits that button. Like, no, if I leave it there, it's gonna get jacked.
Yeah, we immediately see two people like
run up to it.
I'm gonna break this guy's windows, and I'm gonna. Oh, it's armor.
Well, to me, it looked like not that they were going to steal it, but that they saw it just like armor up, and they're like, oh wow, what the fuck is this?
Oh, I assume that both those guys were like, time to get some tires and leave it on some blocks.
It could have been little column A, little column B.
I thought they were gonna wreck his car, but like, I got a fender, time to sell it. But yeah, instead we get more information about Roger trying to go find out what the hell's happening with his failed negotiation with Soldano, and Dorothy decides to tag along. And now we get into actual big mysteries and stuff of what's happening, because like the first two episodes kind of like blend into each other, right?
Yeah,
Like
it's
part
the
one,
same,
part two.
the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
antagonist comes back.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. It's pretty much, even though it's not called part one and part two, it is a part one and part two, with the same antagonist and still dealing with that same negotiation and mystery. I won't say too much just because I know you're the one who really hasn't seen a lot of it, Dennis. But that antagonist does come back a lot,
Oh, cool. Okay.
and
You reminded me of like the yellow bastard from Sin City.
man, you're giving it too much credit.
Okay. Well, just because
I'm
he's
gonna-
all yellow.
No, yeah. Like
Back.
I'm gonna spoil just a little bit and say, man, he turns into Team Rocket so quick.
Okay. That's fine. I'm okay with that. I mean, he is in the second episode, he's played more as being a goof than being like a super serious, villain or whatnot.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Like it is so much that like, oh, here's the pilot episode, and then the following episode, like, nah, we turned that completely around.
Cool. I'm okay with that. So they get into this like weird construction facility. We see that Roger notices one of the like upright building. Well, not building. Like it almost looks like it's part of like a crane or whatever. Or it reminds me of like the tower that the near finale scene in Wonder Woman movie happens, where she takes on. Oh, I can't remember the name of the villain in Wonder Woman. The fake villain.
Ares?
Not Ares. The
No,
guy
the
who
fake
she
villain.
thinks who she thinks is actually Ares. Ludendorff. There you go.
Yeah.
Just like some lookout tower around the construction site, finds Soldano there and is dying. He's been shot and all this broken glass, which is weird because when we hear more about Dorothy when she gets into the car and she's like, yeah, you can't kick me out of the car because no meter human can force me out or whatever. Some weird thing that I caught was as Roger was running, he's like stepping on, all the broken glass on the floor and, crushes it, cracks it and whatnot. And here Dorothy just like daintily walks on top, not cracking any of the glass. So I'm just like, is she really that heavy? Or is this just
It is a little.
It's continuity.
Yeah.
It's a little inconsistent because, like you said, like there's scenes like that, and then there's scenes like where we see her get into her car that the car goes down like 2 inches. Like we see the weight of her sitting down, and then at the same time we see Roger pick her up and carry her.
Yeah.
At times, and other times he can't move her because she's so heavy.
I guess
there
is
a
for plot convenience.
Pretty much. There is and it's probably going to be in the next scenes that we watch, but there is a scene where Roger's like getting in an elevator and it's like full of people, and she's like, "Come on, Dorothy, get in," and she's just standing there, and then she eventually walks and like she takes a step, and then you hear the alarm go off, and then she just runs out, and then it pans up and you see maximum capacity, and like there's a weight limit.
Nice.
And she's like, "Roger, you're an ass."
So the baddies show up right after Soldano passes away, and they start shooting missiles at Roger and Dorothy.
There's a lot of gunfire for that.
He kind of like I don't know if he's using her as a decoy, but he's like, "Okay, start running." So they start shooting at you.
No, he says Steve and the Lucid are using me as decoy, and he kind of like, yes, you are the decoy.
Then she runs. She runs fast. It's actually pretty cool animation what they use for her, because she looks like she's just running, like a normal person, and then all of a sudden super speed.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how do you even trail with your gun? Well, I guess if there's, only one direction, there's one giant long-ass bridge, which I have no idea how far that distance is because she's running really fast. So you figure she would be able to,
it looks
cover
like
that
a long
distance.
Way.
Yeah. Super long. Well, I guess, Paradigm City, not known for having small buildings and whatnot.
In the meantime, Roger uses his magical watch to call up missiles from his car, and I guess he can aim them with his watch.
Yeah,
so while
it's almost like an iWatch technology or whatever, because there's like a camera for the car that shows where he's aiming at through the watch viewpoint. So it's like, lower and fire. Okay.
Yeah, so while their thugs are shooting at Dorothy, he's shooting at them with a missile. Keep in mind this, he has said before, like, "Oh, I don't carry a gun because that's ungentlemanly or something." But he has a car that shoots missiles, so I guess that's okay.
Just like in Batman, how I don't have a gun either, but
no, that's true.
The Batmobile has like quote unquote rubber bullets and missiles that only cause collateral damage, no deaths.
Yeah.
Oh my god! The magic word of the hour: collateral damage.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
It takes us to the second half of this episode.
Turns out, Dorothy is technically Dorothy 2. Dorothy 1 being a giant mecha that is stealing what looks like money printing plates.
Yeah,
the military police is called in to try to stop it, but fat luck they have. Like, none of their bullets can penetrate it. Even their heavier weapons do nothing to it.
Yeah, I mean they have a bunch of tanks, but it's weird the way they set it up, because they put the tanks on the side of the road and they put like all the human cops right in front of the buildings. So it's like, why didn't you block the building with at least your tanks and not these human cops? But
I feel like the military police is pretty inept.
Yeah, you get that sense.
I wouldn't call them inept. It's just, I mean, what do you expect them to do facing a giant, like literally a giant mechanized robot?
Maybe use the tanks and not the handguns?
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, they didn't shoot. The tanks didn't do anything. They were there for show.
Looks like they're more like riot tanks than like actual military tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible they didn't have any firepower, period, but why bother shooting your pistols then? I don't know.
You think that in a place that is, kind of ransacked by a giant robot weekly for the sake of the show, that there would be some heavier firepower. Yet no.
Yeah.
Instead, we get through the ground and through a building. Roger Smith calls for the Big O to come out with his, trademark Big O. It's showtime.
And he comes out through the street.
Yep. Giant
Turn
hole
up.
in the street.
Through the street, through a building.
Half the building is torn into
Just like,
rubble.
hey, I'm here, guys. I want to help.
Dustin is not happy with this.
Nope. Roger Smith apparently is inside the building, like jumps like through one of the broken door or broken walls or whatever. It's like, catch me, Big O.
I guess this is why I thought that they knew that Roger was the pilot, because
Same.
Dustin's screaming the whole time. It's like, no, you idiot, what are you doing?
Same. I
But
thought that too.
anyway, the Big O versus Dorothy 1.
Mhm.
We get some cool robot punching action.
Yeah. And, since it is the first episode and it looks like most of these episodes are going to be kind of self-contained, Big O pretty quickly dispatches of Dorothy 1, though there's some weird shenanigans happening with Dorothy 2.
Yeah.
Wants to elaborate?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what's happening, but it looks like Dorothy 2 is mimicking Dorothy 1's movements, like they were synced up somehow.
Yeah. There is some syncing going on. I figure since they're technically Dorothy 1 and Dorothy 2, there's some kind of maybe shared memory or some type of shared programming at least. Since the action mimicry, I guess it kind of looked like puppetry or whatever. And when Dorothy 1 was getting destroyed, something was up with Dorothy 2's eye. We're just going to call her our Dorothy right now. Our Dorothy's eyes. And I don't know if she was either downloading something, like over the air somehow, like a data transfer, or if it was some kind of programming script possibly getting activated with the destruction of Dorothy 1. So
Yeah.
maybe that mystery will get resolved later, but this episode ends with Dastin trying to pull Dorothy out of the way from following Dorothy 1 and realizing, oh, she's heavy. And who knows what happens at the end, but then we get to episode 2.
Cliffhanger.
Weird ending music.
Oh, yeah, that. I'm not sure how I feel about the ending.
Opening music, the ending music, and the tone of the show as a whole don't really seem to match up. At least the Japanese opening.
Yeah,
It's really weird.
like the first opening, which they played in on the Toonami run, which is not in this Sentai release, is very, very reminiscent of Queen, with like their Flash Gordon song.
Mm-hmm.
And now for this Sentai release, they use a different opening that was done back in like 2007 for a rebroadcast. And it's fine, but it's not the OG one. Apparently, that made a lot of fans mad.
Yeah. I wonder what happened with must have been something with the music rights or something.
Yeah, maybe we can speculate about that later when we get other guests and stuff on too. Episode 2. Let's see if I can say this. Dorothy.
I feel like it was up on the first one. It's like Dorothy.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
So full disclosure for our listeners, there are no like actual previews for the next episode. The preview is literally a phone ringing. You see a hand pick it up, the phone goes off screen, and then like an announcer will read the title of the next episode.
In
But
English.
he reads it in English. We were listening to the Japanese audio, and this is read in English, and it's read super weird. So the second episode's called Dorothy, and literally, like, Dennis was not off when he was reading it that way, because the announcer was like, Dorothy. It's like, okay.
Yeah, good job recreating it, Ed. That was good. And here we see what happens. Looks like Big O shoots some kind of grappling hook out of its hip, which I'm like, oh, this robot has more than just punching. That's cool. Because it occurred to me, I'm like, there better be some long-range weapons on this thing in future episodes, because otherwise it might have a disadvantage against some future robots. Because Dorothy 1 had those, like, Omega Red-style tentacles, whatnot, almost like the liquid metal in Escaflowne for the Guy Melifs that were on Zybok's side. Because it turned into, like, a whip, then a drill, or some kind of spear. And
or shoot lasers.
Yeah, shoot lasers. So yeah. So what happens in Dorothy after we find out Dorothy 2 herself is safe?
Well, yeah, they both get saved, and then Roger, I guess, tries to look into how she is connected with Dorothy 1.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if he was actually following her. He just there was wasn't it like the name of the club, the Nightingale or something?
Yeah, like Soldano said something about Nightingale.
Right.
That caught Roger, that Roger specifically picked up on those words. I was trying to do some investigating.
So he goes to the club called the Nightingale, and he happens to see Dorothy there, as well as
her dad, who we get
Wainwright.
Yes. I don't remember what his actual full name was.
Well, I want to say Timothy, wasn't it? Timothy Wainwright?
Yes.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah. Who is super old, and I guess is a scientist who, everybody lost their memories, as we mentioned, but sometimes people get them back, and he got his back, and he was able to use his memories to build Dorothy. Although the implication was that it wasn't quite like he didn't still quite understand everything about what made her. Yeah. I think she said something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll go more into detail about, like, quote unquote getting memories back. But they do explain that it's not like they got their full memories back.
Yeah, it's like
more just like he remembered how to build Dorothy.
Yeah.
And like that's it. Like he doesn't remember like the events of what led to everyone losing their memory or anything like that. It's like people will remember bits and pieces of like I won't even say past lives, but just like past skills and stuff like that.
And it might be things that are like important to them, because clearly Dorothy being able to A, look like that, and B, because the next part of the show we have Dorothy singing on stage, though we don't actually hear her sing. But that apparently was very important to Wainwright himself, is that she sang some kind of song.
Yeah, he built her in the image of it. Well, maybe not in the image of, but to try and replace his dead daughter or something along those lines.
Or missing daughter? I don't know, one of those two. I'm assuming dead, just because.
It's usually dead in stories like this.
True.
So then our villain from the first episode, whose name I still can't remember. Beck, yes, shows up again. And he's got some goons with him. And they're trying to kidnap Dorothy. Well, they succeed at kidnapping Dorothy eventually.
Yeah, they knock out Roger and kind of just leave him there.
And they shoot Wainwright. So Wainwright's gone.
I feel like they accidentally shot.
Yeah.
Right. Like they weren't planning to, because I remember we were talking about this. We're like, wait, are they holding him up in front of that entire crowd? Because that was a full club, like listening to these performances, and no one is trying to make a move or anything. But I guess technically the gun was inside a jacket, so they're probably just like, what are these fools standing up at the front of the stage for? Bang! Oh my God, my money.
Yeah. So Roger gets knocked out or out of commission.
Yeah, he gets tased and then knocked out.
And then we see Dorothy 1 came back. So Dorothy 1 has a giant hole in its chest, but it got up again, and we see that Beck is running it somehow.
Yeah, he's controlling it remotely.
Yeah, I guess do we see it in this episode? He has got like some helmet on his head with a bunch of electrodes, and that's what he sees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's piloting Dorothy 1 with a giant hole in his chest.
Yeah, so Roger's like, how could this happen? There's no power regulator. But
Sure.
I guess in the process, so of course he does his whole thing again. He summons Big O, destroys more streets, maybe a building in the process. And I guess he's about to punch Dorothy 1 in the head with his.
No, he does punch Dorothy 1 in the head successfully, and it kind of knocks off the face.
Yeah, he shatters the faceplate.
But he's about to finish it off, but pulls back at the last moment because he sees our Dorothy there. Mm-hmm. And he realizes that Beck is now using our Dorothy, as the replacement power regulator.
Yeah. That caused him to stop, and he also stops like the elbow rocket thing that was going to help punch a hole through Dorothy 1, I guess. But
yeah,
as he stops, that gives Beck an opportunity to kind of, like, I guess, still go on the offensive and attack.
Yeah, I guess I didn't quite understand what Beck was doing at this point, because it seems like Roger has a very easy time of he opens up the cockpit and he uses the grappling wire on his watch or something to go up to Dorothy and try and start pulling her out.
Yeah.
So Dorothy 1 is not doing much during this part. Like, Dorothy 1 is not trying to knock him away or fight back or anything. So I don't know what Beck was doing here.
I'm not really sure why. Like, did it sever? Well, it doesn't really sever stuff until Roger actually pulls Dorothy out. And
either Beck was not paying attention, or this was just story convenience, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, for story convenience, we get Roger carrying Dorothy princess style and leaps off of Dorothy 1's face to go into the cockpit for the Big O. And I'm like, shouldn't Roger just, like, I don't know, plummet straight down because of how heavy Dorothy is?
Or throw out his back or crush his knees.
Right?
Because she's really heavy. So that seems like she sets off like elevator alarms. She really weighs down cars. He should not be able to jump with that much weight without blowing out something of his.
Yeah, well, mystery of her weight aside.
Yeah.
He managed to save her. And also at the same time realizes where Becca is transmitting from. So he there's some like room or trailer or something, I don't remember what it is, but he tears open the back wall and takes out Beck and his goons and ties them up in a neat package for the military police.
Yeah.
So that was more like your typical, again, like kind of straight out of Batman, where like the police run up and the goons are tied up on the ground with a note saying, "Here you go."
It's kind of nice. It does
Your friendly
definitely
neighborhood negotiator.
I say it does remind me of Batman the Animated Series, with just goons being tied up, left for the commissioner to take care of and whatnot. So yeah.
Meanwhile, Roger goes home and Dorothy's there.
And she's kind of dressing goth-like.
So his butler, Norman, is like, "Oh, well, she's here, and I would love to have help taking care of you, sir." So here she is. You get the sense that Norman kind of likes to mess with Roger at times. Yeah. And this is definitely one of those times.
He is the best butler. I actually really love him because he is a butler, but he'll give Roger shit a lot.
Yeah.
Like he knows the rules and he'll break them like all the time.
Was very
so
good.
I think that brings us to the end of episode 2.
Yes.
Cue the new quote unquote new ending. Same song, but instead of just Roger sitting there on a
Hourglass.
on an hourglass, it's Roger and Dorothy sitting on an hourglass.
Yep.
And I assume it'll stay that way for the rest of the. Well, you don't have to answer that if it's a spoiler of some sort. But...
No, I think it does stay that way, at least for the first season. I don't remember the second season ending.
Yeah, all right.
Then we get to episode 3, which is titled
Electric City.
Hey, Karen is joining.
Surprise!
Hey.
Showtime!
Showtime!
We were trying to summon you earlier with Karen.
Wait,
Showtime.
Karen, no. Collateral damage, stop!
Ah.
So, Karen, this was your choice for episode.
Yes.
So, what made
Show
you...
to watch, you mean?
Yeah. For the next show for us to watch. So, what made you choose the Big O? Besides the other choices being not allowed.
Yes, the other choices being yes, I had a few other choices and I got turned down. So no,
because they were after 2000, not because we were mean.
Well, one was the other one. Dennis did not approve of, so I was not allowed the other one
because it was 26 episods. And like we just got through
know.
a 13 episode thing. I don't want to jump into 26 right now.
I don't know any short series apparently, so I only know long series. That's my bad. I know apparently. The Big O. I don't know if I would say fond memories. I have very strong memories of watching it when it was on Toonami. So, and I'm a big fan of the English dub cast because there's a lot of Cowboy Bebop people in it. So I really enjoy those voice actors, and I loved how stylish it was, even if the story is odd. But so I figured it's old enough and I recognize it. I'm one of those people that didn't really start hardcore into anime until after 2000, so most of my early stuff is just what's from Toonami and Adult Swim. So yeah, that's me.
Good, though. That's good because Toonami and Adult Swim have gotten a resurgence over the past couple of years. So yeah, I mean, like, I think you're in the right with revisiting some older Toonami stuff because not everyone got to watch it back in the day, and myself included did not get to watch it back in the day. So it's nice.
It's been a really long time. It's been a long time. I haven't rewatched it since probably, so this will be a fun trip down memory lane.
Well, thanks for making it on. So now let's get into episode 3 of Electric City. I don't think I said that right at all.
You gotta put more umph into it.
Electric City.
There you go.
There you go.
Cool.
Now read it again, but as a Jamaican guy.
If I do that, is it racist?
So this episode starts straight up noir with a femme fatale-ish woman visiting Roger and is like, "Hey, I have a job for you."
Yeah, what was her name? Like,
the name she gives in this one is Keishi, with 2 A's and 2 S's.
Like 2 S's and 2 E's. Yeah, it's a really long Casey. Casey Johnson or Casey. I don't know. The last name is weird.
Yeah.
Surprise, not her real name.
Whoa, who'd have thought?
But right, so she hires.
Had cards.
She did have cards.
She just got them from Moo. That's all. Where you can get a whole bunch of business cards with different sayings for one cheap price.
So her job for Roger is to go to, I guess, part of the town called Electric City. Surprise. And they're trying to turn on the power plant. Mm-hmm. But the people who are there are opposed to this action because and they have some kind of like quasi-religious belief about it that doing it will rain down God's wrath or something along those lines.
At first, I was like, "So wait, is this anime Amish?" Because like
they definitely do seem like the Luddites because they come out with their gas lanterns or candles or something. They're like, no electricity here,
none whatsoever. And even though Roger tries to investigate, and he's like, "Well, negotiations failed again," which I'm like, "How is this guy the best negotiator if he just keeps failing?"
He's 1 out of 1.
Well, he doesn't work for the city or the dome or whatever. He works for like everybody else, so that's why he's not like the official negotiator. He's just like everybody else's negotiator.
Yeah.
But and in war, the detectives aren't usually that great of a detective anyway. They might go around and shake people down and also get shot at, but they're not like Sherlock Holmes or Hercule Poirot type detectives.
That's
So
true.
that kind of goes along with the noir aspect too, where people say they're
they just
job,
narrate.
but
That's
they
what they do. They narrate.
They try to use their street smarts and their sometimes have to shake people down to get their goals.
I feel like the negotiator is like a self-made title. He came up.
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's like, I need a job. What am I good at? Negotiating. Yeah.
It's like the new Sherlock.
Am I good at that?
Detective?
Yeah. I just negotiated with myself. Let's do it.
I just keep thinking of Kato now, since that was negotiating.
Oh, yeah, it was.
Too, so.
That definitely was.
Although that didn't last very long either. He was not very good at negotiating either. So
Nope.
Anyway, so Roger finds like some old man living in a cabin when he's scoping out the area.
Mm-hmm.
it's connected to underground path to the generator. I think is why he went up the hill.
Yeah, he sees like a connected. Well, he's not even connected, but he sees a light in the cabin above the power plant.
And decides to do
Screw
some
old man.
investigation there. Which, that is not negotiating, that is investigating. So, again...
Roger
That's trying to sneak into somebody's house.
Roger gets snuck up on and knocked out. So he doesn't do very well with that part either.
Nope.
I just like how he literally is like, I don't carry a gun and I'm not inclined to getting struck in the back of the head. And what happens to him? He gets struck in the back of the head.
It's okay.
Yep. By this old guy.
He wakes up in an old guy's cabin tied to a chair. To his credit, the one thing he is successfully able to do is untie himself, slip the knots.
He negotiated his way out of that.
He negotiated with the rope. He's like,
Does he learn that in cop school? Is that like a police detective thing that you learn how to escape ropes?
he learned it on the streets, man.
Yes, Mr. Rich Man learned it on the streets. That's totally
He's got to
accurate.
maintain his mystique. I guess old man is not. I mean, even though Roger unties himself, old man doesn't seem that perturbed.
Yeah.
It's super weird because like he comes in with like carrying water, like kind of struggling carrying water, and then Roger unties himself and helps the old man. It's like, hey, like let me get that for you. And the old man's just like, huh? Wait a minute, you? Oh, okay. Well, I am old, so yeah, please. It's a very weird exchange.
Yeah.
And then Roger makes him breakfast, so
Scrambled eggs and bacon.
yes.
He's like, I may be rich and have a butler, but I can't make a mean scrambled egg.
So I guess old man thought that Roger was working for Paradigm.
Paradigm, yeah.
Which he kind of is, but he's like, I'm not really part of them. So old man's like, okay, well, I guess that's okay then. And then I'm trying to figure out what happens after the breakfast. I think
the old man goes out to chop wood, and Roger does the spy detective trick of finding the trapdoor under the floor.
Right.
There you go.
By knocking on the floor, and is like, "Oh, this sounds hollow."
Yeah.
Boom! Trapdoor goes down and sees a destroyed science lab.
Yeah.
And even though he's like, "I didn't touch anything," everything turns on.
Lightning is shooting around the room.
I just like how he's like, "I didn't do it.
Right?
It was totally not me. I touched nothing."
For me, I thought
not my fault.
I thought that was actually some kind of trap that was in there that it activated when someone else went down and didn't turn off some kind of like kill switch at the time. But no, someone else actually turned on the power, and it turns out that with a little more investigation, someone actually activated the turbines for this power plant.
Yeah, I do believe like in like the very next scene we do see Keishi running and be like, "Oh well, I didn't realize that would happen. Oh well, my job is done."
Yeah.
Like keeps running.
And Roger does run into her.
Yeah, and she's dressed up in her best Fujiko Mine cosplay.
Yeah, we do see that as the turbines and everything like turns on and electricity's flowing, that it does actually awaken a like an eel monster thingy.
Some kind of giant electric eel that feeds off electricity.
Yes, and I guess this is what the townspeople were calling God or something. Like there's some kind of legend that was in the town surrounding the electric turbines.
It reminded me of the giant snake in One Piece.
So of course, since it's
I guess.
So of course, since it's a giant creature, Roger has to summon Big O to be able to take it on.
We're like, where is Big O going to come from? There's no buildings and stuff for it to break. Oh, never mind. It breaks part of the
It pops up.
There's no underground railroad that would reach like this far out into the. No, apparently there is, because he just appears out of the water.
Well, he appears right next to the water, under the road,
through the road. Yes.
Oh yeah,
where...
right.
Precisely where Casey's car is.
Yes, that is right.
Casey, who tells him to call her Angel, not Casey.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The real
Angel.
She will always be Casey to me.
Angel.
Which is not true, because literally, like, she goes by a different name after this.
Every episode.
More or less.
I think her name that she goes by for real is Angel. It's just all of her code names are different.
Mm-hmm.
She's Angel in the credits, at least.
Yeah.
So Big O manages to beat the eel.
Yeah, not without some help. Like there were parts where Big O couldn't move. Like it looked like the eel was absorbing whatever electricity was happening. Or what have you?
Some shorting it out or something. Yeah. Something to do with zaps.
And then the old man turns off the turbine?
Yeah.
Correct?
He's wearing some kind of like rubber insulation suit or whatnot.
Scuba gear.
Yeah, I guess.
Right.
Scuba
and then
gear.
Going back to your previous comment, Dennis, about long range capability, we see Big O use like a laser beam.
Yeah.
And just completely like cut the eel in half.
Yeah, like almost.
They called it. It was like a chrome blast or something. He said
that.
crimson blast, something.
It's something anime.
Which I'm glad, because I'm like, oh, good. Big O is not just close range combat robot, because he would be in quite a predicament, I'm betting, come later episodes. So that's good.
And then we get an ending narration where Roger's like philosophizing over what it means that there's this power plant and people who have chosen to shun the power, and he reveals that he has destroyed the power plant so it won't ever be turned on again.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Paradigm City.
Whoops,
you didn't want that.
I don't know. He's probably not going to get paid this time again.
Well, this time though, like even though the plant is destroyed, apparently the eel thing was absorbing lots of power, because a lot of power apparently comes back onto actual Paradigm City.
True. The lights like turn on and it makes a beautiful lit up cityscape.
Yeah.
Free electricity
Mm-hmm.
For now.
For now.
for now.
Still good.
Until the dome is like, haha, you have to pay.
All right. I guess we can get into episode 4, which is
Underground Terror.
nice. This is probably
That was the one that sounded the most special.
right.
Underground Terror.
This is probably the one that felt the most out of place for me, I guess. I was like, this was a weird episode.
It was very weird. I mean, partially because of Schwarzwald,
Yeah.
the character, but just overall, it's really weird.
Be prepared for future episodes.
Future ones? Okay. Because this one was strange because I guess it's trying to delve into the deeper subplot for the Big O.
Yes.
With
Yes.
the missing memory deal and whatnot, like what was the name?
Schwarzwald.
Schwarzwald was some like
German.
former reporter, and I can't tell if he worked for like Paradigm City Daily or whatever, or if he was.
He had access to like information because that's why the dome leaders or whoever wanted his paper that he wrote, and that's why Roger was there to negotiate, because they're like, we want everything that you wrote about Memory's topic or whatever,
Yeah.
and we'll give you money. Essentially, it's like hush money, retirement package, quote unquote. So he must know. He's got like, he knows secrets, and he dug up a bunch of stuff that the city's basically like, nuh-uh, you're not gonna tell anybody about that.
You didn't say the magic word.
Yeah, so the person who hires him is Angel again.
Mm-hmm. Completely
Except
different name.
This time she's like, "Oh, my name's Patricia. I'm a secretary here." Wink, wink.
How long have you worked here? A week.
Wink, wink, wink.
Is this the sorry, it's gonna go back a little bit. Is this the episode where Dorothy wakes up Roger? Like his or was that the last episode?
I think I don't know. I think it might be this episode.
Oh, shit.
Just
jamming away on the piano.
That's
true.
I think it was. I think it was the last episode, because when he wakes up in the cabin, he's like, "I prefer being woken up by piano.
You're right. By jazz music, yeah.
By jazz music."
Let's
So,
talk about that, because
sorry,
I did forget.
listeners.
No, it was good you brought it up, because I would have liked to have talked about that. So, go ahead, Garrett.
Yeah, so in the last episode, there's like a funny thing that happens where Dorothy plays the piano, and she's playing it very loudly, very mechanically, very quickly to wake up Roger, because he slept 15 minutes later than usual. And Roger kind of makes a comment about like, "Oh, so you're just trying to like copy us, but you really can't because you're an android." It's kind of a dick thing to say, but
Very.
it's kind of funny because at the end of the episode, she does the same thing, but she plays it very, very smoothly and very like kind of into it. Like she's even like swaying back and forth.
She's playing the blues.
It's a different piece. Like
Right.
the opening is some classical music thing, and
and she's playing it, but Roger makes the same comment, like, "Oh, so like what did I tell you about like trying to copy our movements?" And then she just stops, and it's like she keeps playing, but like she stops like swaying and stops being into it and just like plays it with the same deadpan look on her face.
Just glares at him.
Yeah, it's
Always
kind of the reason why I brought it up is because I kind of like it because it does build into like the relationship that they have, which is Roger does call her a robot a lot of times, but as time goes on, he starts to not be such a dick about it, for her lack of a better term.
Kind of, because they did a whole like, "Are you feeling cold? It's cold outside" thing also. So
Right.
They kind of went back and forth. And they're like, "You feeling cold? Are you really concerned?" "No, not really. I'm just asking out of politeness." Or, "Oh, you don't feel cold because you're an android." So
That's
yeah.
cold though, Roger.
Rude, Roger.
I did like the
Very
swing part
rude.
because it was very eccentric the second time she was playing the piano. I'm like, what the hell is she doing?
Yeah.
But it's funny because like as she's swinging back and forth and really getting into it, still the same deadpan face.
Yep. That's pretty funny. It almost reminded me of the GIF that you see for GIF, like the meme image you see from El Dorado, from one of the characters, or Road to El Dorado, from one of the characters wanting to play his lute. And,
Oh
yeah.
It's like, with the
crazy eyes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Dorothy's expression reminded me of. Play the piano. All right, episode 4.
So yeah, Roger's on the search for the journalist Michael Zebach, and he finds out that he's deep underground, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So he's saying like, "Oh, I'm gonna go underground," and
well, he goes to the police station first to get information on him, and he's like, I think he's cheating on his wife because he's got this secret apartment, but he hasn't left the dome, and then it gets blown up when he's inside it.
oh, right, with the trail of gas.
Yeah, gas coming underneath the door. And he's in this tiny room full of books. Yeah, it was very shiny gas.
I thought it was blood at first because it was also reddish tinted.
Yeah.
It definitely looked like blood. And then he sees after he escapes the blown up apartment, and he sees I guess who is Zebach, but he's got he is basically Batman Scarecrow.
Yep.
He's got like this rags hat or a hood on that it's like pointy and looks like it's made out of a burlap sack or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got
some kind of scarring on his face or whatever.
Yeah, crazy eyes and crazy teeth under it.
Yeah.
He said something about how he got like blown up later, so that's why he's got scars all over his face. You can't, and it's covered up.
It makes sense. Like they were trying to hush him for not speaking, or for preventing.
Oh no, it's I will bring it up later. He mentions it later since we talked about, he finds out he's underground. It's all underground related stuff.
Okay. So yeah, as Ed was mentioning before, Roger decides to, or I guess like follows a trail which leads him to going underground. We kind of see the system of the transport mechanisms for Big O, where Roger has been underground, where no one really wants to venture for fear of never coming back. But even Roger has to go deeper than he's ever gone before, and it freaks him the fuck out.
Yeah, there's so that he passes a subway, which is a neat bit of world building, where because he explains that nobody remembers what the heck this thing was. But then there's stuff even deeper, and he's climbing down this ladder, and he's like, I'm afraid. I don't know why. It's a physiological response, but I have no idea why.
Mm-hmm. And he's trying to conquer that fear, like through rationalizing through it and whatnot, but it still overtakes him.
Yeah, he starts. I don't know if he's hallucinating or what, but he sees ghostly people walking by.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a memory trigger. I don't know.
Yeah. But surprise, Dorothy shows up and kind of snaps him out of it.
He was
I think it's mom first.
Yes.
Like, I mean, Dorothy.
She totally makes fun of him for it.
Yeah, he's like, you're going to call me mom, weren't you? Shut up.
I was not. Be quiet. Not talking to you. Why are you even here? They don't ever explain that. She's just
why
there.
was she there?
She just says that, like, yeah, she doesn't say how she found him, just that, like, yo, you're your heart rate was behaving weirdly or what, something like that. Like some medical condition, but not actually explaining why she's there.
She probably has a GPS tracker on him or something. Anyway, they find this giant open area underground, which has like a bunch of city miniatures in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of small buildings and so on.
It's like a city for Godzilla. They're like Godzilla sized.
Yeah.
People walk like Roger's Godzilla size.
Mm-hmm. So you know this is going to get wrecked.
Yeah, because in the middle of it, they see that there's a Megadeus, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Megadeus.
It's not
Megadeus
activated,
prototype.
though. Yeah, it's not activated.
It's not activated. And Schwarzwald makes another appearance. I don't even.
And that's when he mentions his burns because he was trying to activate it, and it backfired on him. And so he was like, "This is the result," pointing to himself.
Okay.
Saying he got burnt and scarred and one eye's bad and whatever. He's got the bloody rags all the time. He's like, I can't activate it.
Yet
I've tried.
Yet here comes Dorothy, all of a sudden communicating with it somehow.
Yeah, she's like
just mouthing.
Speaking. I mean, you get just sound effects coming out of her mouth. It's like machine code language or something.
And lo and behold, Megadeus activates.
It wakes up.
And we're like, oh, I guess Roger's going to summon Big O. And I don't know how it's going to happen. Is it going to be like a lower railroad track or a lower subway track for it to go through? Nope. It goes through the ceiling instead.
Through the ceiling.
Well, he did say he was lower than he's ever been.
Uh-huh.
So the tracks had to be above where he was.
He did not lie.
He did not lie.
But now I'm wondering, like, did he break through the tracks that would normally help him get around now? How I don't like, you know, the thing that deploys it kind of just opens and either shoots it out. So it would have to shoot out through the tracks that it was on, right?
I guess. Who knows how Megadeus actually works? It's kind of a weird.
I don't know.
It's a weird thing. It somehow magically knows how to reach him. I mean,
they
sure.
have really good cell phone signal in Paradigm City. It's his watch. It's his sonic screwdriver watch. That's all that it is.
Yeah. That's his GPS. I just like how it can show up like right after he calls it to, no matter where he is in the city. I mean, granted, when he was running, he was like, "Is it coming?" And his butler's like, "I'm sorry, sir. It's not. It's almost ready." And he's talking about the food, but like it still takes the Megadeus a little while to get to him. He's like, "It's about ready. It's not done yet."
All right.
They do end up wrecking this miniature city. I was joking that they were gonna go, there's not enough civilians here or big enough wreckage, so let's take this someplace populated. They would go above ground, but no, they stayed underground.
Oh no, but we do get a I forget exactly what happens, but one of the Megadeuces hits the other one, and like that shockwave does like destroy a building on
street level.
Yeah, so it's like
that
even
breaks a hole.
Collateral damage.
Yeah, it breaks like a hole in the ceiling, and it goes all the way up to the surface. Like, oh, building. Sorry, building. Out of nowhere. That has to be so weird. Like, out of nowhere, you don't sense anything, and then suddenly a building just collapses, and you're like, what?
Here comes a Megadeus through the ground.
Like it's an earthquake.
Almost like normal. I feel like, I don't know, if you live in Paradigm City, you have to be like, oh man, do I have Megadeus insurance? There's so much collateral damage. A Zack Snyder fan's going to be happy with this show. That's how destructive this thing is.
Yeah, Michael Bay looks at Big O and was like, nah, that's a little too far.
Well, so unsurprisingly, Roger is able to beat the other machine.
Mm-hmm.
He uses like Dorothy, like the weird part is Dorothy's actually scared of this other Megadeus. That's like one of the big takeaways because Roger was when Dorothy showed up the first time, when he was calling her mom, he was like, "Do you experience fear? Do you want to know what that feels like? Because it's a human reaction." And then later, after the Megaduce gets activated, she's terrified of it, saying, "It's not like me. It's totally different. It shouldn't exist." I don't really explain anything about that, but she's cowering in fear, and so Roger takes her into Megaduce and is like, "Look, Dorothy, this is not you. It's not like you at all. Hold on to your sense of self and don't get lost in your fear. You got to conquer your fear."
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that kind of wraps it up for these 4 episodes. Of the 4 that we watched, are there any like high points or low points for anyone? I know, Karen, you were missing the first 2 episodes of discussion. So
first 2, yes.
Yeah, is there anything you want?
I don't know what you talked about in the first 2.
Yeah, we just went through like a general summary. We went more in depth with the summary on the first episode because it was a lot of world building and things. So
yeah. Well, I guess the two things that I like, I always love Angel. She's like my favorite character in this show. So anytime she shows up, I always really love her interactions with Roger, because Roger thinks that she's just a pretty face, and then he has no idea what to do with her after she ends up tricking him like 600 different times. And I weirdly like the cop. What's his name? Dotson.
Yeah.
Like in the first episode when Megaduce comes out, he's just like, "Yay!" And then he's like, "Oh no, he's destroying the city. Don't destroy the city!" And then he cheers when he defeats the other robot. And then the Megaduce walks off. He's like, "We have to stop him. Don't let him get away." So I just love how he keeps flip-flopping. Like, he's cheering because he's saving the city, but then he's also destroying the city, so he can't let him go. So he's like, "No, I have to do the law, obey the law the whole time."
There's a part of him that's like Guillermo del Toro, giant robot fighting fanboy. So he loves the giant mecha fights. But yeah, you're right. He realized the point where it's like, the city has to pay for it. This is coming out of my taxes. We got to get this guy.
There's very much a love-hate relationship going on with him. It's like, look, like, we can't do anything about this, so I'm happy that you're on our side and you're defending this monster. But shit, can you not, like, throw him in the buildings?
Come out of the ground. Quit destroying the road, man. We just fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the best part, like, we didn't really mention it, but the best part is like, okay, I'm out of here, and you see Big O just stomp the ground and just sink it.
Later, guys.
My job is done.
Bill me if you can find me.
Like, goddamn, like, you did just as much damage as if we just let that monster roam free.
So the real villain is the Big O. Gotcha.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah, you just spoiled the whole thing for yourself. No, you didn't.
Menace to society, the Big O.
Those are my likes.
Nice. Part of me wishes we could get more with the car. I don't know what it is. Like, the Big O is impressive enough. Yes, it is. But can
you like the Bat car?
Yeah, can we see the non-Batmobile a little bit more? I thought it was pretty cool. It's
the giant boat of a car.
Yeah, it's like a mix of the Batmobile and the car that they drive on Supernatural. So, I don't know. I thought that was cool. The fact that it armors up, it has missiles, even though he doesn't carry a gun. We talked about that. And, you know, how it's like the Batmobile has machine guns with quote-unquote rubber bullets. And missiles that only cause collateral damage. They don't kill anybody.
You're a louse, Roger Smith.
Yep. See, Garrett, louse is in there for the first few episodes.
What do you... Okay. I asked if it was.
Yeah.
You're coming at me like I was like, no,
I'm
it's
saying
not.
like now you have, because I said I think so, and now we got.
Yeah.
You are very accusatory with that.
Now we got a second
attacked.
confirmation opinion. It's like, look, I was right.
She says that when she gets blown up by the missiles. She's like, "You're a louse, Roger Smith."
Yeah. Anything else that people liked or didn't like on some of these first 4 episodes?
it's hard for me to like say one way or the other because I remember the very last episode, and I feel like that's putting me in a bad mood because I hate how this series ended.
Gotcha.
It ends really odd. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like
Yeah.
it's one of those things where I'm enjoying myself. I just know where this goes, and that makes me mad.
Oh, that's almost like me.
Sometimes
with,
it makes series hard to watch when
Right. It's kind
when
of it's just
you know the ending.
it's a pet peeve because it's one of those things that they do in anime that I don't like.
Yeah.
When it's just like,
Yeah.
oh hey, we're gonna end it this way, or is your mind blown? Do you need to think about this? I think you do. You tell me what you think how this ended. It's like, no, just end your goddamn show. That's all I want.
Yeah, that was like me with the Escaflowne and Outlaw Star ending. Like, I love the journey in the last episode. You know, had some fulfilling moments, but still like the last beat was the disappointing part. Like, oh,
Right. Like I would put this more on Evangelion than Outlaw Star.
gotcha.
Just how it ends. Just like, oh, god damn it.
Okay.
No, you're not being artsy. Just end the goddamn show.
Well, we'll see if I ever get there, since we're only doing the first 13 for this. Han, do you have any other words for these 4 episodes that you want to make mention of?
No, not really. Yeah, it was. I enjoyed the series when it was out because it was the exact same time I was watching Batman the Animated Series, and I feel like it was inspired by that. So
Yeah, very
look
much
at
so.
stuff. Yeah. So it's at times a weird, odd combination of genres packed together,
Okay.
but it does okay, and so yeah. Right now it's trying to build up, but there'll be a lot more fights later, so that'll be good.
How about you, Ed, since you're like me and this is also the first time you're kind of watching this?
You know, when we went back and talked about the piano stuff, I think that was my favorite parts out of
That was a
these
good highlight,
so
yeah.
far, because it really did show off the relationship between our two principals really well. You know, the rest of so far the episodes have otherwise been kind of formulaic, as a big monster
Yeah,
shows up and
it starts very episodic.
yeah,
Okay.
and he summons Big O and he wins, so no big deal. But that was a nice touch with those scenes.
Okay. Well, hopefully we get some Dorothy-centric episodes too, because I wouldn't mind seeing that. Like, I don't know if every episode is going to have Big O in it, but so far I'm not on board with the robot appearing. So, yay.
It does enough different things that it's not repeated yet. So
Yeah. I mean, as long as it does one of two things, which is A, appear in the most ridiculous manner possible, causing destruction, and B, punch something or do something cool, then I'm good. All right. Ed,
you
let's
guys talk about the fabulous opening, by the way.
We talked about the disappointing opening. Do you have any theories, Karen? Because we found out that the opening on the Sentai release uses this like 2007 new opening that was like a rebroadcast for other Asian countries, but not Japan. So for some
Interesting.
reason, when Sentai licensed it, they did not get the original opening that can be found on the old DVD releases. Instead, they get this 2007 opening instead. So
That's weird.
yeah,
That's really strange.
like, at least for listeners on this show, you're going to hear the original opening. Second episode for this 3-parter, we're going to do the one that's on the Sentai. But I like the original one that was played on Toonami that I think most people grew up with, or what have you.
Yeah.
Like the other,
I just know I didn't remember it at all when it started on the title screen. I was like, "What is this song? I don't remember this song."
I mean, like,
at
it's
all.
not terrible, but when you're trying to replace like a Queen homage with something that is, like, not technically Queen, you're like, okay.
It's still 70s ish, but it's like, what was I? It's sort of like robot show. It's like very robot show music, but it's like campy robot show music in a way. So I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not as cool as the standard opening.
Nope. So Ed, why don't you start us off with our Japanese voice actors?
All right. First off, we have Roger Smith, who in Japanese is Miyamoto Mitsuru. He's been voice acting since the 90s, but still active. So he is Nakagawa Keiichi in Kochikame, Hub Lebowski in Wolf's Rain, John Croce in Gunslinger Girl, Maiza Avaro in Bacano, Stephen A. Starfaze in Kekai Sensen, and Murasaki in Drifters. And a big role of his, a little different, is he is the Japanese dub voice of Simba in The Lion King.
Oh, nice. Adult Simba.
Adult Simba, yes.
Oh, we just had...
Child Simba, yes.
We did the one for young Simba before. Oh,
I can't remember who young Simba was.
I know that we did mention Jonathan Taylor Thomas in our Pompoko episode.
Oh, boy.
he was one of them.
He was one of the Tanukis.
Yeah,
I think
he was
the
main one. So yeah,
that wouldn't be surprising.
In English, Roger Smith is voiced by Steve Bloom, credited as David Lucas, and we've mentioned it before.
David Lucas.
He's credited as David Lucas for the first 13, and then they actually credit him as Steve Bloom for the second half. So
wait, I haven't heard that voice before. Who's Steve Bloom?
He's some guy.
Okay.
He's done a couple things.
Yeah, we mentioned him before as Marge Guildoa in Macross Plus, but he's also most well known for being Spike Spiegel in Cowboy Bebop, Orochimaru, and a bunch of others in Naruto. And then some other fun ones. He's Jake Martinez in Tiger and Bunny, and he also plays Ken Masters in Street Fighter Alpha. But yeah, he is very prolific.
And he's the Toonami Tom robot.
Yes, at this point. Or currently.
Yes.
No,
right? Currently
I don't know
well.
if he is anymore.
And No. He's still it. He is the current Tom voice. He's pretty much been the Tom voice since the first changeover, which was back in like 2002.
Yeah, when it went from afternoon to nighttime, that's when Steve Bloom took over as being
No. He was because there was an event that happened during Toonami where like the models changed. That's when it switched over. He was still in during the afternoon run.
Okay, so I know the first voice of Tom was Sonny Strait. That's why.
Yes, yeah, he was only it for like I want to say like a year or two.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mainly been Steve Bloom.
So how does it work?
He does a lot of Eastern. He does a lot of Western animation too. So he's on like Troll Hunters, and
he is the official voice for Wolverine for animation.
Not in my heart. Canadian Wolverine forever.
He is a good Wolverine. I am sorry. Like, you get over that.
92 X-Men Wolverine.
He's one of the Transformers. He's one of the Transformers too, right? Starscream.
Yeah.
Starscream.
In one of the iterations, yeah.
Yeah.
He's also done a lot of Western stuff. I like Wolverine's just like the biggest that he's done.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Like on X-Men Evolution and
No, not Evolution.
Not Evolution.
Not Evolution. No, because Evolution is the Canadian group. That was the not American, but the English dub for Inuyasha.
Yes.
That same group.
Ocean Group. Because like I know that Wolverine and the X-Men like kind of borrows that style of X-Men Evolution, but he's also been Wolverine in a bunch of the video games and stuff too.
Yeah, there's a lot of like the growling and all that. Fun fact, the Wolverine from X-Men Evolution is Koga in Inuyasha.
Mm-hmm. He is. Scott McNeil?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like they both have that same growly, like, oh, one's a Wolverine, one's whoa.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Roger Smith's voice, both English and Japanese? Go.
I like English better.
I do too.
I mean, Karen and I, that was our first introduction to Big O. So I think for us, that's the original. Yes, it's not the original, but for us, it is.
Yeah.
And then it's Steve Bloom. Like, what are you gonna do? Mm-hmm. Like, come on.
It is funny because Roger Smith does sound a little like being Spike Spiegel, and then when you get like, oh, it's actually Spike's English voice. Okay, now that's where more confusion is happening. Okay. How about you, Ed? How do you feel about his voice in Japanese?
I mean, it's standard main character voice, I guess. That's all right. Okay. Nothing to hang your hat on.
Yeah.
Is he a popular Japanese voice actor? Because I think I looked at his credits and he doesn't have an extensive list, so I wasn't sure.
No, he's been active since the 90s. I said, he's Murasaki.
I was looking at the other one.
He's Murasaki. He's Stephen A. Starface.
Okay.
I think he gets a lot of side characters, more so than recurring role, more so than main characters, but he still is currently working. He's still, very active and prolific in the industry. So,
yes.
Next.
All right, moving on. Our Dorothy is played by Yajima Akiko, another veteran of the business. Her most famous role would be as Shin-chan in Crayon Shin-chan.
Oh, nice.
She's been playing him for years. I can't.
About as opposite as possible.
I know, right?
Yeah, but she and another big role of her, Berlina Peacecraft and Gundam Wing. She's also Access Time in Kamikaze Kaito-jan, Oasid Chinami in Seraphim Call, and Pino in Ergo Proxy. And she was one of the guests on Pop Team Epic, being PP Me in episode 7.
It's which one was that?
That was Hell Shake. That was the Hell Shake Yano episode.
Nice. Okay.
But I can't remember which episodes which skits that PP Me was actually in that episode.
Dorothy is played by Leah Sargent in English, who has done voices for Miyabi Kaguazaki in Ai Yori Aoshi, Nanami Janai in the El Hazard series, Millie Thompson in Trigun, and she's also Chun-Li in almost all the animated stuff. So Street Fighter 2, the animated movie, Street Fighter 2 V, the TV series, and Street Fighter Alpha Generations, the movie. So
that's the older stuff for Chun-Li.
Yeah.
Because I know the newer stuff, the official Chun-Li voice is different. Well, I don't remember her name, but she does a lot of shit.
For the game is sometimes different from the anime. So
no, but all that anime came out before the newer iterations of 4 and above.
Yeah, so I think the person who's doing 4 is doing the version for it now.
Yeah, so, she's the current official Chun-Li.
Yeah. How do you feel about Dorothy?
She's Tachikoma. She's Tachikoma from Ghost in the Shell.
Which one?
That's robot. That's robot-ish. It is a robot.
Doesn't talk like a robot at all, though.
No,
I think the Tachikomas have more personality than Dorothy at times.
Dorothy does, yeah, that's true.
Dorothy definitely doesn't have too much of a personality, and I feel like in English she doesn't have that much of an inflection either.
Yeah, usually in English, they try to stay pretty flat.
Yeah,
in English. Although I think I noticed. I wasn't paying too much attention, I guess, when I was rewatching it a little bit in English, but I feel like they may have added reverb in Japanese, and I don't think the English voice got reverb to make it sound more metallic-y.
It's not reverbed.
I heard there was a couple of times in Japanese there was an echo in her voice. It wasn't the whole time, which is weird. It only happened a couple times.
Well, it might be the times
but
like in episode 1 where that weird syncing thing was happening with her and Dorothy 1. Maybe that was a case of where the reverb was going on. Maybe.
Anyway.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just know that she had a sort of metallic sound to her voice in Japanese.
I like the characterization both in Japanese and English. They're both, they're not monotone, but they're not inflective. Like I said earlier, it does kind of remind me of the English version for the Major in Ghost in the Shell, at least for the first movie, anyway. Because I know that she's more emotive in Japanese than she is in the English version.
Yeah.
All right, next.
All right, next up, Norman Berg, our great butler, is played by Kiyokawa Motomu, who is not in a whole lot of stuff, but he is the butler extraordinaire because he is Walter Dornez, the butler in Hellsing, and he's Valkenhayn, the butler in Blaze Blue. He's also Fuyutsuki Kozo in Evangelion, so the second in command.
Cool. In English, he's played by Milton James, credited as Richard Barnes, and we've mentioned him before plenty of times on the show because he is General Gomez in Macross Plus, Dr. Gwen Khan in Outlaw Star, along with Mushizo and Shinkuro in Ninja Scroll, and a bunch of other roles. So yeah, at least he's Norman for the first 13 episodes. So yeah. He gets replaced later. But I liked him. It reminded me a lot of Alfred from Batman the Animated Series.
He's basically Alfred with an eye patch.
Yep.
I mean, that's him.
So it was very good, both in English and Japanese. So, yeah.
Who likes to sass his boss? He likes to sass him.
You're older. Like, even though you work for him, you kind of want to sass your boss. Because you're like, I raised you. Technically. I don't know. It's been 40 years, so who knows?
All right.
I'm still wondering how Roger made his money.
Next up.
Oh, who knows? Who knows?
Not sure.
Next up is Dan Daston.
Mm-hmm.
I guess Dan's his first name. He is played by the famous Genda Tesho, our extremely prolific voice actor that we've talked about before because he's Balgus in Escaflowne. Other known roles are Umibose in City Hunter. He's Action Kamen in Crayon Shinchan, Domino Walker in Cowboy Bebop. And interestingly, kind of connected to this stuff we've already talked about today, so he is the Japanese voice for Convoy, aka Optimus Prime in Transformers.
Nice.
And he is also the Japanese voice of Batman for anything that Kevin Conroy did in English. It was Genda Tesho in Japanese.
Nice.
Oh, and he was Puppko in episode 4 of Optimus Epic.
That show was so good.
So
Dostin is played by Peter Lurie in English, credited as Chuck Farley. But he gets the Peter Lurie credit for the second half of the Big O. Let's see. He was King in Rave Master, the narrator in Terraform Mars, Jaggy in Fists of the North Star, and also Professor Sadler in Street Fighter Alpha, the OVA.
He was in Naruto.
Mm-hmm. He's the
Couple.
first?
41 second Hokage,
I couldn't
Tobi
remember.
Maro. Yeah. I know it's hard. It's a lot of Hokages in that show.
It says Hashirama Senju, so I guess that's the second one. Okay.
Well, I see Tobi Rama, or Tobi Rama, the white-haired guy.
Okay.
White-haired one. Second one.
That's the second one, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, how do you feel about how do you feel about Dostin?
I mean, he does a good job. He's supposed to be gruff, angry cop. Well, gruff most of the time, but angry when Big O is tearing up the city streets.
Character design reminds me of Jet Black from Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, he definitely looks similar.
Spiky sideburns.
You really do feel like he should be the Jet Black, but I feel like when they were like doing the casting, you're like, no, that's too close.
Yeah.
We already did this in English.
Yeah.
We can't do it again.
That said, we'll get to him later, but Jet's Japanese voice, at least, is in the show as somebody else.
Yeah. We'll get to him later. Speaking of Cowboy Bebop relations, who's our final voice?
That's a big, final voice.
Wait, why? Oh, well, on the English side, yeah.
On the other side, yeah.
In Japanese, Angel is Shinohara Emi, who we've also talked about because she's Kagero in Ninja Scroll. She is Biko in Project Eiko, Mizuki Kaho in Cardcaptor Sakura, both the old one as well as the new one, Mizuno Yoko in Maria-sama ga Miteru, and her most famous role probably her most famous role is as Kino Makoto or Sailor Jupiter in Sailor Moon.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned that because Angel's played by venerable voice actress Wendy Lee, who is also Faye Valentine in Cowboy Bebop, also Kagero in Ninja Scroll, and so much more.
So many things.
There's so much. Like, listen to some of the older episodes where we talk about her, because there's just, Yahiko and Kenshin. She is, let's see, Kione.
What has she done this year?
I don't know. There's so
Maybe we
much.
can
I have
stick
to
to that.
keep looking.
That's a good question.
Like I might have to find stuff that she hasn't voiced but does things like, like staffing for, because she's doing a lot more background stuff for
Right.
anime, like production stuff now, more so than voicing.
Oh, she
stuff.
was in Knights of Sidonia, which is kind of recent. That's
Okay.
like a
She's
couple years ago.
She's in the new Berserk. She's in Your Lie in April.
She does Bulma for Dragon Ball Super, not the Funimation one, but for like everywhere else. Like she's
the Bang Zoom one.
Yeah, she's the Bang Zoom voice for Bulma.
I think they call it the Asia dub.
Yeah, it's Asia dub.
Okay.
That's what they call it for. She's
I actually worked with her on one of my games in my company, so I've actually met her in person. So couple
seems like
times.
she would be super cool to meet. She's Luca in the 2016-2017 Berserk series. I guess that's kind of new.
I said that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't say the character name. Oh, Wikipedia tells me that she is in the Detective Pikachu video game.
Oh, nice.
This year. That's something from this year.
Isn't that the one that has Ryan Reynolds doing the voice of Detective Pikachu for the movie?
The movie, yes.
The movie, I don't think. I'm not sure he's in it.
Kaiji Tang.
Oh, okay.
Ah, okay. All right.
Hooray. Well, that's the first 4. We'll get to the next 5 next time. So I guess thank you guys all for joining for this online. I know it's a little bit different being online than in person. There's a lot more stuff to work around with, especially on my end with my gear working with. So yeah, hopefully this episode posts okay.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Han, people can't find you anywhere because you don't have social media presence. Okay.
Yeah.
Garrett, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Black Riku. That's BLKRIKU. Pretty much anywhere you see that, that's me. So
Sweet.
Say hi. I may or may not go to Anime Expo for a day. If I do, I'm probably just gonna hang out like outside of the expo. I don't think I'm buying a ticket or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I will be at Comic-Con and I will be at Dragon Con.
Fuck yeah. Karen, where can people find you?
I am on practically everything at this point as either Raya or Raya Cosplay, RYA. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and ACP and World Cosplay and
Friendster.
Apparently, yeah. That's
Kids,
old. Is that even
MySpace?
still around?
Are you on MySpace?
On live
not as
Journal.
Raya. I am you can probably find me at AX. I'm not gonna be at Fanime. I'll probably be at AX because I'm working AX. I know like Long Beach Comic Con I think is coming up, so maybe I will stop by at that.
I
But
thought that was in September.
it's like twice a year.
Oh god,
So-
it's like SAC anime. There's 2 of them.
So, the first half of the year one's probably passed. So September is probably the next. So that's what I am trying to remember. But yeah, so that's about it for me.
Okay. Ed, where can people find you?
As usual, I'm at the very long Twitter handle, Ippen no Kui Nashi. And I'll probably be at AX. I'll also definitely be at San Diego Comic-Con. So that's what's coming up for me.
Nice. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at ItchNob. I will also be at Comic-Con and Dragon Con. I am maybe at AX. We'll see if that press badge goes through. Crossing fingers with One Piece Podcast, guys. Thank you. But if not, I'll probably be there just like what Garrett is doing, hanging out afterwards. Yeah, no meetup, no panel this time, but maybe in the future. Who knows? We'll see. But other than that, for the show, we have many things you can find us at. First of all, we actually have, We have our website, which is at vintageanimeclub.com. You can find us also on other places like Apple Podcasts, excuse me, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Player FM, Podbean, Overcast, and Podchaser. So don't forget to like, subscribe, rate, review over there, please. We also have a YouTube channel, which you can do that stuff too. We need 100 subscribers before we can get a custom YouTube link. So right now it's just that random mumble jargon. So subscribe there too if you can. We would love to get some reviews to help us get to higher spots in iTunes and whatnot. And, sharing any Twitter post or Facebook post for episodes that you enjoy or like listening to or have been mentioned on would be awesome. So thank you again for that. We also have Facebook, Vintage Anime Club, Twitter, Vintage Anime Pod, Instagram at Vintage Anime Club, and you can also send us emails at vintageanimeclub@gmail.com. And don't forget to help support the show, soon by Patreon. But right now you can actually get the Big O Blu-ray/DVD. I think they also released on DVD from Sentai at least, through our Amazon. And
there's an old DVD.
Oh, it's still just old DVD? Okay.
It's
the
old
DVDs, which they technically aren't really being sold by Amazon. So it's just Blu-ray right now for Amazon and Right Stuff through Share a Sale. So support the show that way. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thanks, everyone, for being on, too. Hopefully the Skype call wasn't, or Discord call wasn't too bad. Yeah.
Yes, fingers crossed.
If you happen to have a class is up. And kanpai.
Kanpai.
Baby, it's you. We'll be together now and forever.
Today's episode is brought to us by, first, the Grafinia Centenario Malbec Reserve 2014 from Argentina. Grafinia Centenario is a tribute to the 100th anniversary of the winery founded by Santiago Grafinia in 1870. His commitment and passionate dedication created the foundation on which the winery was built. Grafinia has become a true Argentinian icon, delivering premium world-class wines for over 135 years. Oaky notes in this wine are the result of aging 50% of the wine in oak barrels for 12 months, which combines with 50% unaged in oak, offering plenty of fruit.
That was good. This is also brought to you by Gran Coronas, a 2010 Cabernet Sauvignon from Familia Torres. And from the Belvedere on the Mas La Plana estate, home to the Torres family, you can see the meticulous crop of the Cabernet Sauvignon variety that gives rise to one of the family's most highly prized wines. It has aromas of jam with a silky elegance of the mouth. In the mouth. Perfect with a charcuterie and meat dishes served at 17 degrees Celsius. Okay. And then it says that same exact thing in Spanish, which I will not say because I don't speak Spanish all that well.
And finally,
in the mouth.
And finally, we have the Achaval Ferrer 2016 Malbec blend, also from Argentina. Sharing world-class Malbec has always been our passion, and AF by Achaval Ferrer now expands our horizons, allowing us to explore different grape-growing regions and varieties in search of new, fresh, vibrant, and lively Malbec-based blends. They don't actually say anything about the wine itself, just the winery, but I guess that's fine.
It was good. All this is good. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll catch you next time with our second part for the Big O.
See ya.
Goodbye.